katoa e tautoko anau ngā mihi kua mihi anō reira nau mai whakatau mai. Greetings ladies and gentlemen, local Member of Parliament, Your Worship the Mayor, senior officials, friends, whānau. It's a very warm welcome here today to the first Manawa Ora Open Day. My name is Verity Smith. I hail from Kororareka in the north, Tangata Tiriti, reformed public servant, recovering treaty negotiator, among other sins. But most importantly to me, a volunteer in support of the Manawa Ora Mirimiri kaupapa, and it's my privilege to be facilitating the formalities today, which we can assure you will be relatively short and sweet. We have a few presentations for you. We have a short video, which is an amalgam of hauora experiences, or the experiences of those seeking wellness on our recent tour of the Te Waipounamu. But before we get into that, just a little bit of housekeeping. The wharepaku, the bathrooms are through in the front corridor on your right before you get to the front door. In the event of an earthquake, what do? Stop, drop, cover. Don't go and run and jump on the table. In the event of a fire or other emergency, please make your way through the nearest exit and we'll convene at the end of the driveway. Also, as a courtesy, we are doing a live stream today, but rest assured it's facing this way. Yes. Without further ado, it's my privilege to invite Tōhunga Kai Mirimiri, expert practitioner and founder of the Manawa Ora movement, Jolie Davis, to the floor.
Kia ora koutou, tēnei te mea te kia koutou katoa ko tai mai nei, I runga I te kaupapa o tēnei wānau, nau mai para mai whakatau. First of all, I just want to thank Matua Penitana here. Thank you for opening our day today with a mihi and a karakia. And I also want to acknowledge all of you for making the time in your busy schedules. Like, honestly, we know how busy everyone is at this time of year, so mihi atu kia koutou for coming here today. Aroha mai, I tried to memorise this, but yeah, I've got a memory of a goldfish, so bear with me, but I'll keep it short. My name is Jolie Davis. I am a Kai Mirimiri and founder of Manawa Ora. And I want to welcome you to our new clinic space today. So I'm going to very quickly go over, give you an idea of what we actually do here, and also introduce you to, you'll be introduced to the Manawa Ora whānau and the kaupapa here, which is about healing people, whānau and communities. So Manawa Ora was formally established 6 years ago in Te Arawa. I lived in Te Arawa for 8 years. But I'm originally from Ahipara, Far North community, 90 Mile Beach, that's where I grew up. And growing up, Rongoā Māori and Mirimiri was normal. You know, it was part of our landscape. It was our go-to, our default when we became unwell. And so that's how I grew up, thinking it was normal, and it wasn't until I moved away from Ahipara, moved to Whangarei and then to Rotorua, and then here, where I realised, well, actually it's not, you know, what I took for granted back home. So things have changed a lot since then. A lot of the people who were teaching and practising back then have now passed on. But I was fortunate enough to be taught for a time and mentored by someone who is known as Papa Joe, one of the people that I was taught by, Papa Joe Hoiba Delamere, who was a tohunga in many things, but he was renowned for the healing work that he did, and the mirimiri and the Romiromi that he practised in the style of Te O Mairea, which is what I was taught to, and many others. So he's not only well known in Aotearoa, but also around the world, because he did a lot of teaching in that in other countries as well. So he always taught us that healing is for everyone, and to continue sharing and growing the kaupapa, which is what I've always tried to do. So fast forward 25 years later, that's how long ago I was up home, and here we are. Manawa Ora now has a permanent clinic, and we're treating at the moment, after moving into this new space, currently 60 to 70 people a week but we've got potential to do way more and the space to now do it as well. Manawa Ora facilitates education and training workshops where we're basically introducing people to Mirimiri and Romiromi and wellbeing from a cultural perspective, so what I call the foundations of wellbeing and practice. We hold regular community clinic days in the Wellington Region, making Mirimiri accessible to those who need it most. And the community clinic days also serve to raise visibility and awareness and to normalise Mirimiri in communities. Currently we have 12 practitioners who are developing their practice right now. We also have more people in the wings. So what is Mirimiri and Romiromi? The word Mirimiri literally means to stimulate and agitate. So this is not massage. We practice traditional bodywork and healing, as I was taught by Papa Joe, based on ancient philosophy and practice that he taught. So this is not pop-up Mirimiri. We've actually been doing it for a while. We work holistically, we treat the person, not the diagnosis. Most of the time we choose to work in an open setting. As you see our clinic here, normally we've got 3 tables there and we have capacity here to have another 4, 5 or even 6 tables where people are working openly in the same setting. And to us that's normal. It may not be normal to other people, but in terms of us working traditionally, how I was taught, it's actually a safer way to work and it's a more supportive setting for everyone involved. We use karakia, we use taku, we use waiata, we use kohatu, we use rākau, and all of these systems and strategies that's normal for us to employ while we're working. And the goals of treatment is to get people well. We're not here to create repeat business. That's not what the business that we're in. We're actually here to get people well, to get people better, to empower hauora to take responsibility for their own well-being, and at some point to assist them to not need to keep coming back here again and again and again. At some point they have to regain mana and control over their own health and well-being and their own lives. So as some of you already know, we are registered Rongoā Māori ACC providers. We are one of only 2 that I'm aware of here in the Wellington Region. And that means that whānau, anyone who has a current claim, whether it's physical injury, mental injury, or a sensitive claim, can choose to have treatment with us. Right now, we are treating 70% of all the people that are coming through here right now from ACC. So that's huge. That is massive. And it's huge in a way that it's been a game changer, not only for us as practitioners, all Rongoā Māori practitioners, but for hauora who would not otherwise be able to access the service. And I am receiving more and more referrals. I think ACC has kind of figured out that, oh, she keeps taking them, well, we'll keep giving them. And so it has been a real game changer, but the reality is that there's many more whānau out there who are not on ACC. There's many more whānau who are in distress or pain, and to us, pain is pain is pain, whether it's emotional pain, mental pain, physical pain, spiritual pain. There really isn't a difference to us because with Romiromi we access all of those things through the physical body. That's how we talk. So in terms of reducing inequality for Māori and health outcomes, there needs to be more work done in this space to make it accessible to everyone. That's me, that's what I think. So the Waipounamu Roadshow, this was something we did earlier in the year. And we took a team of 10 practitioners. We ran 9 community clinics from Blenheim all the way to Invercargill and back again. And over 18 days we treated 950 people. That was a massive, massive achievement. It took a lot of work, it took a lot of planning. I'm really, really proud of our team for doing that actually. We are a team in everything that we do. Why did we do it? Because we're passionate about what we do. We wanted to take the Mirimiri kaupapa out into communities and to show that it actually could be done. A team of 10 people can treat 950 people. We wanted to also gather feedback from hauora over that time, which we did via evaluation forms, via video interviews. We've got a stack of the stuff. It's there to prove that the treatment actually worked for them. So we didn't just get feedback about physical benefits, there was feedback about, because we're holistic, we work holistically, probably 50 to 60% talked about the non-physical benefits that they got from treatment. And this is something that's hard to define. If we're just purely looking at what we're doing and the results we're getting from a medical or clinical standpoint, those measurements that we rate quite highly in Te Ao Māori won't be looked at as outcomes, right? But to us, they're massive outcomes. And of course, all of the time we always work to normalise mirimiri, just like how it was back in the day. You know, everybody knows what physio is. Everybody knows what chiro is. Everybody knows what acupuncture is. Way more people know what all those things are than the indigenous practices of this country. So that tells you straight away there's work to be done. We all know that stress and trauma impacts well-being, so we need to have a truly holistic approach to address the causes, not just physical symptoms that people present with. And it's my opinion that this approach is what's missing in our healthcare system. So Manawa Ora is not just a clinic, it's a whare hauora, it's a whare wānanga, it's a safe space where people can come. A lot of them have a tangi. They get halfway to the table and they're already crying. Just to unload their mamae, to check in with us, to have a reality check if they need it. Sometimes that's our job too, because we're not here to do all the work, I might add. Although we're practitioners, we do hold our hauora accountable. If they need to change something in their lives, we're going to hold them accountable because it's about well-being. We are the fairy godmothers here. We don't wave a magic wand and make them better. We actually say to them, look, this is the stuff that you need to focus on changing in your life if you want to get better. So people are really looking for something that will give them relief from their pain. I'll probably estimate right now every second person that's walking on the streets is on some type of painkiller. Right now, there is a lot of people on pain relief, whether it's injuries, headaches, migraines, whatever, way too many people on pain relief long term. And it doesn't have to be that way. And for Māori in particular, you know, as Māori, what we want is high quality care. We don't want to get fobbed off. We don't want to get dismissed. We don't want to get passed over because we're in the too hard basket. We actually want quality care and we want people to care. We want treatment that actually works, and we want to be able to connect to something that has relevance to us as Māori. So if all that stuff isn't there, then we're much less likely to engage, no matter how well designed and well-meaning the service is. So the hard work has been done, the groundwork has been laid, Manawa Ora is expanding, and we wish to continue the mahi by providing a service that's sustainable into the future and accessible to those who need it most. Manawa Ora ki te rangi, Manawa Ora ki te whenua, Manawa Ora ki ngā mea katoa, tihei.
Mauri ora.
I see this as the future of wellbeing for Māori, and I think that this is something that needs to be incorporated in health.
That whole context, that whole kaupapa, I think the kaupapa that's right through the whole experience.
The singing,
Yeah.
lines are, man, beautiful.
Yeah.
That, I think, for me, sort of helped me get into the zone of not focusing on the pain.
Yeah, very good.
Like maybe about here, it feels like stuck.
Yeah. And how hard can you do it to them?
I'm happy to be Māori, and I'm happy to have my whakapapa, and I feel I want my to put a whole
Nothing I've ever experienced before, and all I could really do was cry.
Yeah.
Something along the way during the 20-minute process kind of released something in me. Unexplainable.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that before?
I just wish we had somewhere we could go locally to have miri-miri.
I didn't actually know how heavy I felt when I walked in compared to now. It was only 20 minutes, it felt like a minute, it went too quick. But in my actual years, I had a cry, I had a wee release. I do feel lighter.
Do an MRI because I couldn't bend my knee. I'm bending my knee. I was amazed at this. I am impressed at this. I'm shocked at this and would recommend this. Phenomenal. It's kind of beyond words, really.
The music and the prayer and stuff, and I absolutely loved that. So it felt quite spiritual.
I feel lighter and something has definitely been released and taken off me.
I just feel so great right now. I feel it was just what I needed at the right time.
It's so great that I come. It's just so much lighter and better and yeah.
It normally feels like I have a belt around my chest all the time and I'm fighting to breathe, and it's coming a lot easier to breathe from that session.
What that sore back I had before isn't there, the lower back, so I saw yeah, I'm not feeling any pain at all. I don't want to leave and I want to learn how to do it.
I mean, I'd like to find out a bit more about it.
Yeah.
Is that traditional?
Yes, traditional.
I did cry. I just had tears that I just don't know why, and I couldn't, just crying, but it felt amazing and I felt release.
Probably one of the best massages, well, experience all over it. It's just the way after that was going, it was just, I felt in a good space of whatever.
I've had my lower back done, and I, for the first time in I don't know how long, can touch the back of my heel, which I've not been able to do. It's really great.
I could sense that it was emotionally, physically, spiritually nourishing.
I feel like relief. I feel really relaxed and really at ease.
Yeah, I just feel, I don't know, feel different, feel good.
It's pretty deep. And it was incredibly emotional. It was awesome. I feel real light now. I feel light and
yeah, I think that was one of the best treatments I've had. I definitely do it again.
And I just wanted to release and let things go, and that's exactly what I felt like.
Felt all those pressure points and I just felt it like just lift.
And just listening to the other people talking has made a big difference to a lot of people.
Well, being taken there safely and then released was like, it was quite an exhilarating feeling.
And that was the something that actually made me cry.
Because it's not the same as a miri. It's just not. I mean, they may like fix some parts of you, but this goes deep. Yes. Goes right through your core.
Unbelievable. When you've been taking painkillers for, those things that I almost feel like I don't have it anymore.
So like, I just feel great, and I just wish we had better access to this kind of stuff here. Proper, instead of having to go through all these other avenues, or they try to give you painkillers and stuff like that. You don't need it. And you have this.
Kārawi. So that was just an amalgam of some of the interviews from the Waipounamu Roadshow. It's just a small part of tens if not hundreds of hours of footage from our community clinics, also the evaluation forms and also the testimonials, just to give you a bit of a flavour. So next, we're very thankful to have Lisa join us to share a little bit of kōrero from the perspective of a whai ora, someone seeking wellness.
Kei ki tana ātau ki te kike a koutou I tēnei rā whakahirahira. Nei rā te mihi mata kuikui ki a koe Jolie, rawa ko kōrua ko Rob, o kōrua mahi. So, kia ora koutou, 2011 changed my life. I'm a survivor of the 2011 Christchurch quake. My house was ripped into 3 pieces with me inside it. my wall of my home came down and on top of me, and what saved me was part of a book cabinet, and the chiropractor said, he said it was because of my, and I brought his hands in, voluptuousness. That I had my 5th, 6th and 7th vertebrae was squashed, and had it not have been for my voluptuousness, it would have been severed during the quake. So what that did was it gave me permanent nerve damage down my right hand side, and I was told by the chiropractor that I'd never be able to lift my arm past here. That was it. I was paying them quite a lot of money that I didn't have at the time, for just relief. My husband, Machu Jennings, and I moved to Manawa Ora. While we were there, we met an amazing tohunga on the streets of the NGA, and he helped me as well to discover Rongoā Māori. And something that rang true to me still was something that he said about tauiwi medicine and Rongoā Māori. He said to me that there's a place for both, but he also said that the difference is that with tauiwi medicine, they don't want to heal you all the way because you're a cash cow. You can keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. Rongoā Māori, the difference was they wanted to heal you physically, mentally and spiritually. So my quest was to find someone who was like him when I came down here, of course, to Porniki. I first met Jolie. At the time I was getting out of the car, what would happen was that because of the pain, I couldn't move, part of my body would start to lock, and I can't feel the difference between hot and cold for the nerve damage. I got out of the vehicle and I was walking in with my husband, and Jolie had been recommended to me, and an old man, about 80 years old, lovely kaumātua, ran past me. And we were looking at him, and he ran along this when Jolie was at the beach. He ran past me, and my husband and I were like, okay, is that a good sign? You thought he'd fly. And then we came inside. His wife was holding onto his jersey and onto his walking stick. And he ran because he hadn't run for years, and he wanted to run along the beach. And he was scared that if he didn't go ahead and run now, that it would be taken away from him. So, and we had an awkward moment. Where I just met Jolie, and we're all standing in a circle, and the wife standing there with the jersey and with the stick, and she looks at us and goes, "He's not coming back, is he?" We went, "No, he's not." So that was my first encounter with Jolie, and Jolie is an amazing woman, and just has healed me to the point where I've got full motion of my arm. I'm no longer on any form of any painkillers. I know what you're all thinking, you know, how is she so beautiful? How is she so talented? No, it's still a bit of pain. So I'm all of that still, and I come in just to get maintenance really done. I believe in Jolie so much and what she's done for me that I have, my whole whānau have come through Jolie and her team, and will continue to. All my friends will come through Jolie and her team and continue to, because you don't have to live your life in pain. Just to exist is a difference between living. So, nō reira, I don't want to take any more time. Thank you, Jolie. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, team. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Lisa, and can I please welcome our kaimiri extraordinaire, fantabulous, full of unicorn dust, Shana.
Kia ora koutou. Hi everybody, I'm Shana. It is so awesome to have you all here in our space. Welcome to Manawa Ora. My journey with Manawa Ora started in 2019. It was when Jolie came into my other workplace to run staff training. And it was a very profound moment. I'm talking eyes popping, looking around, can everybody else hear and see what's going on? You know, the wisdom in these holistic practices that she was sharing with us just made sense. You know, both from a healing perspective, but also from the position of supporting healing. You know, she was taking the priority from the hinengaro and she was sharing it with the heart and the emotions and the body and the wairua. She was taking the power from the words and sharing it with the energy, with mauri, with intuition. Like, wow. Yeah. I did my first workshop not long after that, and it was beautiful to be continuing the practices of our tupuna. I then did my first community clinic day, and I remember watching whauora getting up off the tepu, like physically looking better. You know, no like waddles or no limps, but also just like beaming with gratitude and wellness. And that was it. I was sold, I was hooked, I was committed to this new kaupapa of growing into becoming a kaumiri practitioner. I then did another workshop, and then another clinic day, and then another workshop, and then another clinic day. And then we were in like a Rōpū messenger, and one of the brothers said to Jolie, hey, how do we continue growing as kaumiri? And she said to him, you can do a day in the clinic, you know, like an internship. I jumped so quickly out of that chat and into one with her. And I was like, please, can I do a day in the clinic? Can I do this internship? A week later, I was in her clinic following her around. And 2 years later, I'm still in her clinic and I take every opportunity that I can to follow her. Follow her all over the place. My internship with Manawa Ora has not only, you know, it's not only about learning and being guided and being supported by Jolie, by Matua, by our other kaumiri. You know, we get this opportunity to work alongside whauora, utilising traditional Māori methods of healing. We are appreciated and valued to stand in our wholeness, to embrace our identity and to be proud of who we are. I work in the clinic and continue to grow on the Fridays. I love being a part of the community clinic days. I am down to be a part of the staff trainings, and I really, really enjoy the 2-day workshops. From Monday to Thursday, I work for Wellington Rape Crisis. I am a registered social worker and I specialise in sexual violence. I've been in the sector for the past 7 years, working from crisis to facilitating prevention, to police work and forensic, and in my role as a therapeutic social worker. And what that looks like is I work alongside survivors and we do whatever it is that they need to do on their healing journeys. You know, we work together to build coping skills, we work together to normalise and validate the experiences of sexual harm, to deconstruct, you know, the impacts of rape culture and sexual violence. I'm also a mum and a partner, and my 2 eldest daughters are a big part of our community clinic days as reception. It is an absolute privilege to be able to share this with my whānau, you know, to be able to share all of this beautiful wisdom with them. Just like myself, everybody else here with Manawa Ora, they all bring a diverse background of experiences, which just adds to the richness of the work that we do. You know, we have registered nurses, we have union delegates, we have teachers, we have a lawyer, we have scientists, we have Rongoā practitioners. Like we are, we have, oh, she was coming. we have our senior practitioner Jules, who has experience in Fofo, which is a traditional Pacifica modality of healing. You know, we are the whole package, and we bring all of that into our focus of healing whauora, healing whānau, and healing communities. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou, mauri ora.
tahi āhua. It's fallen to me to wrap up, and far be it from me to try and repeat or summarise the words of these wahine toa. They stand in their own mana. But I'd just like to recap a little bit about the Manawa Ora mission and vision, and how we're going about achieving that, and the types of support that we think is required to take mirimiri healing to the next level here in Aotearoa in the context of the current health reforms. So you've heard about the Manawa Ora mission to heal whaiora whānau in communities, to raise kai mirimiri, awareness of mirimiri and kai mirimiri or practitioner capability and capacity. And the vision really is that the fires of mirimiri are burning brightly on every maunga, every hilltop across Aotearoa and to Waipounamu. What does that mean? It means that mirimiri is normalised, it's accessible, it's affordable, and it's making a real impact in those communities. The Manawa Ora approach to me is quite unique. It's based on stoking these three main ngārehu or embers. The first is the permanent clinic, which, as you've heard, is already delivering at scale and with room to expand. 2 permanent kai mirimiri and 3 part-time at the moment. The community clinic days are about taking healing to the communities that need it. $20 koha for 20 minutes, so it's affordable. These are being run monthly, and there's a big following in Poriroa and here in Lower Hutt. So the Manawa Ora strategy really is to focus on those communities where there's low accessibility to mirimiri, low capacity. They really need it, and we can really stoke those fires. We've got strong fires in Poriroa and Lower Hutt, and ahi tere, flickering fires around in other communities. Te Waipounamu was actually a call from down there quite strongly for us to go there. So Manawa Ora is stoking the fires, and the vision is that ultimately there'll be satellite clinics operating under the kākahu of Manawa Ora. We've got a really strong foundation in our tōhunga kai mirimiri, Jolie Davis, and in our senior practitioners in Matuid, Rob. We've got a couple of dozen kai mirimiri waiting in the wings, chomping at the bit. We've got a strong evidence base for what we do, demonstrating outcomes. All activity, apart from the ACC funding, is currently self-funded. So, for example, the South Island tour, people took 3 weeks off unpaid, fundraised for about a year through the community clinics, working in order to, and also put money in a bank account to fund that. And that's because we've benefited immensely from the kaupapa in our own healing journeys, and we want to give back. The need is great. Manawa Ora is already delivering at scale, and we need some sustainable pūtea to achieve our vision, to create employment pathways for our kai mirimiri, so that being a kai mirimiri practitioner is no longer the thing you do after your full-time job for koha in the back of someone's house because they've given you a room to operate out of aroha, but that actually you have an option to follow your calling and do it full-time and develop your practice. So this kōrero here, this hui is not just about funding, it's about making connections and starting a conversation and building relationships so that we can have some knowledge transfer and some kōrero with each other, because no matter which department we sit in or where we come from, we're all committed to making better communities and a better society, no matter what level we're working at, whether it's the national level, the local level, or sector level. So, unless you've experienced mirimiri, it's very hard. Once you've had a really amazing mirimiri, you understand it. Some of us haven't had a mirimiri as adults. And I say that because they reckon the first mirimiri you have is when you're born. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story based on what we could say a lot of the stories we hear about the benefits of Manawa Ora mirimiri. They're based on fictional characters, but I want to try and explain to you how the strategy works. So Mama has got a terribly sore back. We've got ACC in the house. ACC, kia ora ACC. She's on ACC for her back. She hasn't been able to work for a couple of years. She's in pain. MSD in the house. Let's just say in another lifetime she's actually on the sickness benefit because she can't operate. She sees on her pukamata on her Facebook a pānui for a community clinic, and she thinks, oh yeah, I can probably afford that. Probably won't make a difference, but I'll go and check it out. She goes to the clinic. she has some healing, and all of a sudden that pain, she feels that relief, and she thinks, wow. And the practitioner says to her, we think we can really help you with this injury, and she thinks, oh, probably not, I've had it for years, but okay. And so she goes to the community clinic. Fast forward a few months and she's pain-free. She's out walking, she's cooking good kai for her family because she's got the energy. So, you know, the health sector in the house, she's not turning up at the hospital every month with an asthma attack. Hubby, he runs a stressful job, gets to the end of the week and he likes to have a drink and he gets a bit mean. He sees his wife and the benefits to her, and he's a bit staunch and guarded. But eventually she talks him into it because he can see the impact it's having on her. So he comes to the permanent clinic, thinks nothing wrong with me, and he walks in all staunch and has a massive healing and he's crying and wailing. And he gets off the table and Jolie says, I think you've got a bit of healing potential there, you should come to a workshop. So eventually he plucks up the courage to come to the workshop, again walks in all staunch and guarded. By the end of the weekend he's had a transformative experience, and she says to him, you've got something, come to the next community clinic and start working, under my close guidance of course. So he turns up to the community clinic, fast forward 3 to 6 months. He's been to a few clinics, he's popped into the permanent clinic, he's actually starting to really develop some skills and get some results. Okay, do we remember the pick and ending books when we were young? Okay, there's a couple of possible endings to this story. I'm going to come back to that because I want you to help me with it. But firstly, just a few key messages and a gentle wheel, I think, for the sector in terms of next steps. So we know that 115 years ago, when the Tohunga Suppression Act was enacted, the Crown stomped all over those embers around the country, and in some places they were still smouldering, and in others there was not much left. Efforts to restoke that fire and make right from the 1990s haven't worked. With respect, the Crown was trying to build the fire itself and didn't know what to do, and didn't have any accelerant to put on the fire in probably half a match. Manawa Ora has been practicing, Jolie's been practicing for nearly 20 years, has not sought Crown funding to date, has not wanted to conform to that system and be distracted by it, and has focused on the healing and building the practice. But we're starting this conversation today because we think that now is once in a lifetime opportunity for the Crown to get it right in term for hauora, for providers and for communities, and we think that Manawa Ora has something to offer service design. You know, we're not asking for the whole fire. We're asking for a little bit of accelerant for that fire and to trust us to know where to put it and to see the results and rely on the results. So I'm going to segue back to the end of the story. I'm going to say there's a couple of possible endings to this story about Mama and hubby. Does anyone want to have a go at guessing?
Does she go ahead and do they get back together and is he that mean to her anymore? She finds another man.
I'm loving the engagement. Would you like to come and join me? So they're still together, okay, but this is where MSD and corrections and oranga tamariki come in. Second son, a few months down the track, 6 months down the track, dad's happier, mum's healthier, she's cooking good kai, she's home, they're present. Second son was 10 years old, he started absenting himself from school. All of a sudden he's home more because home's a safe place. He doesn't end up smashing windows and tagging Mayor Barry's township. He doesn't end up stealing cars in foster care, in a correctional facility eventually. That's his tōrero. Back to hubby, he's got this healing potential, and yes, things are better at home. They're much better at home, but he's been building his practice and his talent. And it's 9 months, 12 months down the track, he says to Jolie, "I really want to do this full time." And she says, "You've got the smarts, you've got the commitment. I think you should do that." She says one of two things. One is, "I'm heartbroken. I want to be able to help you, but I can't afford to take you on. I'm really sorry." He goes back to his permanent job because he just can't sustain doing the volunteering, the weekends, the trips on top of his permanent job, which he doesn't really like. So he goes back to that, and the whānau's okay because they've built this wellness, and they're up and down, but they do okay. And he always wishes that he could follow his calling and actually expand the fires in Mirimiri and heal more communities. It's okay because they've told Nana Jean, who's got a bung knee, and niece who's got anxiety issues, and as you've heard, you know, that's how you heal communities from the inside out. So you've got the cross-cutting issues, and we've got a big part of the Rongoā for the cross-cutting, for those cross-cutting issues, whether they be social, criminal, mental, you know, traditional health issues. The other option is that Jolie says, that's fantastic, we've got funding for an FTE for you for a pilot for 18 months, come and work by me, and he does. And in 18 months, he's had a corridor with a couple of other practitioners here, and they say, you know what, Whai Jolie, this has been incredible. We think we're ready to go up to our corner of the hut now because they really need us there, and we'll start our fire up there, and we'll come back in the community clinics for the community of practice, and we'll come back to just check in and make sure that we're still at that same Manawa Ora calibre, and we'll do the roadshows together, but we're going to set up our own. And Jolie says, that's fabulous because we've got funding for a start-up clinic for you, and away they go. And so these are the types of sustainable putia streams that we're looking for: FTEs, organisational support, funding for the community clinics, the workshops, and the roadshows, and that's about being able to free up Jolie and senior practitioners to do more training. It's about being able to provide free healing for those vulnerable community members that can't afford it and aren't on ACC. It's about creating drop-in days for those that they're so vulnerable, life's hard, they can't book. And it's about creating free places for people in the workshops who deserve to take their healing journey further, but they can't afford it. So that's just one example. And as I say, this isn't just about funding, it's about building connections. And I think now's probably a good time to really ask of the Crown to please help us navigate your system so that we can, as a whānau, focus on doing what we do best, which is healing people. Help us understand how we can do this in the least painful way. Help us understand how we can contribute our knowledge and experience as a, you know, probably if not the largest Manawa Mirimiri provider working at scale in Aotearoa with a unique approach and high capacity. If we could start that conversation, that would be wonderful. Now's probably a good time to segue into a bit of a kōrero, reflections, pātai. I'll open to the floor for questions or thoughts from any part of our presentation today. Don't make me pick. Okay, I've got a few patsies then, shall I? No, I haven't picked any patsies, I promise. Ginny, would you grace us with your thoughts? When did you find Manawa Ora? What did you expect, and was it different?
I was referred, so Barbara Edmonds, who's the Member of Parliament for Mana over in Poriroa, told me that she'd been long and met Jolie, and she was pretty awesome, and she recommended that as a service coming into the hut, it would be a good idea for me to understand what Manawa Ora is about and how we could potentially help support getting greater connections and understanding maybe what funding would be available. So I came along to your first open day where when I came in the door and everyone was laid out from the, you know, getting Mirimiri and Romiromi right across, which is looked amazing, and I had a 20-minute session, which I wasn't expecting, and I tend to agree with all of the views that were communicated by those people on the video. That, you know, I think it holds real potential to not only resolve physical ailments, but also those mental and spiritual ones that we know in a post-COVID environment are more prevalent than ever within our people. So I'm hooked. I sign up for a regular fix-up every month or so to come back and get my Parliament aches and pains ironed out. And look, I think that you provide a huge opportunity to really provide greater inroads into whānau where we know that there is pain, but we have difficulty reaching and identifying how we can provide assistance. So I know that you've said already about 80% of your funding comes through ACC. It's good to know that you're accessing that funding, but I think there potentially lies greater opportunities with the establishment of the new Health NZ, how we can look at providing far more preventative care at a primary level as opposed to waiting until people present into secondary medical care. So you've got me, you've got my 100% support, and I'm always ready to advocate or to help you as much as possible to take the next step in the journey.
Would anybody else like to add anything? Has anybody learned anything or that surprised them today, or wants to challenge us on any of our kōrero? That's welcome too.
I'm always going to vote for Ginny now. My hand is down.
Wrong meeting.
I might be moving into the secretary.
Kia ora whānau, just me to Eugene, been a long time since Hutt Timber Days, brother. So, look, on my day job, I'm a union official, and so I spend a lot of time watching predominantly Māori and Pacific Island workers being told they're no longer fit for purpose. And a clear example of that was when we were moving to Rotorua, and they had someone on ACC on light duties who was a senior lifeguard putting seedlings into a nursery, and they said, look, we've had him on there for 9 months, he's been on ACC for 9 months, we can't get him better, we're going to let him go. I said to them at the time, let him come and go and try some traditional healing with Jolie. After 3 sessions, he was back on full duties. 18 months later, he was named New Zealand Lifeguard of the Year. You know, so these are just the pragmatic, practical things that Manawa Ora can bring. And yeah, it's at the end of the day, I see a lot of people, I previously saw a lot of people who were losing jobs because of that sort of thing. I see a lot of people now keeping their jobs because employers are now getting in behind and saying, and I've said to employers who have, you know, okay, we'll send the Māori along. Next minute I'm saying, hey, how come you're sending the non-Māori as well? I thought you're just sending the Māori along. Oh, Rob, they don't come back with a rehabilitation to work program. They come back to work. So, you know, even employers are seeing the benefits of this sort of thing. So we are asking the question, you know, the biggest problem for Manawa Ora is they can't be the $20 clinic, fix everything, while they do the 9 to 5 jobs. You've got some amazing healers, some absolutely amazing healers in here, and I think it's a great opportunity for government organisations to say, well, let's try a pilot, let's do something, because this is too good to let it fall down and not support it. So sorry, I'm a bit biased because I'm Jolie's partner, so but I really believe in what these guys and ladies do. They're just amazing, and I encourage you to come along to the clinic day on Saturday in Porirua. You know, come along, hop on a table, and find out, is this the real deal? You know, it's only one way to find out. Hop on the table. Kia ora.
On that note, tēnā koe matua, and very humble, he's an amazing healer in his own right. If there are any last questions, please just a thought to leave you with. We have one question of you, and that's how you can help us normalise Wellbeing and make a real difference. So, Jolie, do you have any words in closing? Or, okay. Well, I'll hand over to close. Yeah, sure.
Oh, ko tēnā tātou. Should I stand up? Just, you know, it's hard to turn around and tēnā tātou e mihi ana nui kia koutou. Thank you for your presentation today. I thought it was really, it was amazing. Thank you for sharing your kaupapa. He uri hau no te rāua hoki. Called Rachel Jones to Whenua, and I have had the privilege of my sister, who was also practiced under Papa Joe. So I'm very familiar with Romiromi and Mirimiri and Rongoā Māori, and very strong advocate, have experienced it myself, and have seen transformation. Like you fire
very similar transformations where people can actually start walking again. And seeing kaupapa shifts, you know, people trying to reclaim their identity and kaupapa back to the whānau particularly. So yeah, so ngā mihi nui kia koe. Really nice to meet you, Tinana too. I've also brought along Anna Ho, who is also from MSD. So we're at MSD. We do a lot of tautoko around community capability funding, which is where how I met Verity, which is how I got the invite. And at MSD we also tautoko our communities that support those that are experiencing or have survivors of sexual abuse and family violence. And you know, you did share a very good, I thought it was a really good way of example of sharing that narrative of those interconnections and the whānau struggles and growing, I guess, the healing journey, right? So there is definitely some opportunities that we at MSD would love to have a kōrero with you about. I think that there's definitely opportunity for Eugene now that they are looking at the Māori Health Authority. And I want to mihi to our two colleagues from ACC. I think you used to work with Benj. And so Benji Strickland is my partner, and he worked with Ture, that's right, and they were actually fundamental in bringing in ACC accreditation under Whai Kathy Irwin. So yeah, just wanted to do a little mihi to our ACC colleagues and just congratulate or just acknowledge the tautoko that has created and the pathways that you created for our whaiora, tangata whaiora, to be able to access amazing healing and, you know, these practices. Yeah, so here at MSD we're keen to have that kōrero around how we might tautoko. We've got other opportunities in terms of supporting community FTEs and how we could support increase. We're all about employment opportunities and wow. And also provide a capability we're here to have that kōrero. So tēnā tātou.
Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou, tūtai ka whakahoki mea kia koe, nā i whakatūwhera tō tātou. Hui te ahirangi. Kia koe hoki Rob, tēnā ro te wā ka ki te tāwa i a tāwa, i te wā i noho tahi. Tāwa ki roto o Waikato ki te tonga. I mahi tahi tāwa i tawa wā nō reira tēnā koe ki te rā tēnā tātou. So Rob and I actually go back quite a few years ago now in a different lifetime when we both lived in Tokoroa and worked at one of those large timber factories. But I was actually going to get up and say something, so I'm not saying it because Rachel. I did notice Verity look at me a few times. I was going to say something. So, working in the health sector, in the Māori Health Authority, before moving to the Interim MHA Health Authority. So we have a number of Rongoā service contracts, but with limited funding, it was quite limited. But I think everyone in this room will already know that Rongoā is another pathway, and definitely a pathway that should be expanded. So you're actually not trying to convert us, it's actually how can we work collectively to open the pathways. And I know within the Māori Health Authority, the board, Interim MHA Health Authority, 1 July it becomes the Māori Health Authority. And you might have seen the budget announcement a few weeks ago, getting a little bit of extra money. And it does only a little bit when you compare it to Health New Zealand. But it is more than what we currently do. So for those of you who don't understand the new system, Health New Zealand, Māori Health Authority, Ministry of Health. Ministry of Health is still at the policy shop, have an oversight of a monitoring role, I guess, of Health New Zealand, Māori Health Authority. DHBs will no longer exist, so 20 DHBs as we know them now will all roll into Health New Zealand. Some of the Māori focused money that's set within the Ministry of Health and DHBs is now going over to Māori Health Authority. Again, not a lot of money. and we've only got my team is a commissioning program, so Alvin and I have had some conversations over the last little while. So I own a very small team of 8 staff at the moment, commissioning staff, and so we don't really have my authority doesn't yet have the capacity to be managing all the contracts that are going to be handed over. So over the next 3 months, those contracts will still sit within Health New Zealand, and then from 1 October they'll come over to us with FTE, whether it's actually people, FTE, or whether we're recruiting. And I know we're going to be doing a lot of recruiting. But our board and C are committed to Rongoā and growing Rongoā. They're committed to doing things, contracting in a different way, not in the way that we currently contract, which is you will do things like this, and this. And it's challenging us that have been in that system, and others like yourself, MSD, been in the system, this is the way you do things. I've worked in MSD in past years as well, but it is actually challenging us to actually listen to the voice of Māori. And so this is just one of those many forums that myself and others are attending. And so, yes, we will be having conversations, but actually at the moment we can't make any commitments because we don't actually know what the board's committed to. But I can say the board are committed to expanding Rongoā services. Look forward to having those conversations as and when we know what it's going to look like. And that'll be across Aotearoa. So it might be a combination of things, expanding the number of service providers. Might be a conversation about extending the services that we already have with existing providers. All those sorts of things, and then you may know about Te Kahuirunga, which is an international Rongoā entity. So it's good to have a connection to Te Kahuirunga. It's good to have a connection with the Iwi Māori Partnership Board within your. So I'm talking wider here. So each Aotearoa now gets split has, I think, 15 Iwi Māori Partnership Boards across Aotearoa. Part of the relationship with Iwi Māori Partnership Boards, Health New Zealand is having a collective oversight of what the commissioning is going to be look like in terms of, I'll say it in a different way, Iwi Māori Partnership Boards will have a lot more influence over what we're going to be commissioning across Aotearoa. Hence the reason why it is good to have a connection into that with the Iwi Māori Partnership Boards. And so there is influence. The Māori Health Authority does have influence over Health New Zealand spend, but I guess the waters are still to be tested. I suppose I just have my reservations at the moment because it is both very new organisations, both setting up. The commitment is there, I believe. It's just how does it actually roll out. Committed to having conversations in the future in terms of what's going to look like in Rongoā space. I don't think there's any money in Health New Zealand for Rongoā. The money will, any Māori specific money will go into the Māori Health Authority. Cool. So our influence over Health New Zealand, because it's just like DHBs, 20 DHBs at the moment, they've been managing their funds for their populations, and we've had really little input into how they might care for their Māori community. But in Waimoia, well, the expectation is the Māori Health Authority will have some influence over Health New Zealand in terms of how they address the health outcomes of the and Iwi Māori Partnership Boards will have a lot more influence. At least that's the expectation. And at the moment, some of you who are involved in the health sector, and DHBs might know that DHBs have had Māori Partnership Boards, but actually, I think the majority of those have just been like a tick box exercise as opposed to those Māori Partnership Boards actually having mana. So that's going to change. Happy to answer any questions. If I can answer any questions. If I'm looking at the floor, then I don't know.
Tēnā koe te rangatira i o kuku whakamaro mai tātou i tēnei ahi we're really looking forward to that conversation. We know that there's a huge amount of work being done to stand up the authority at the moment. We need to get more colleagues for that. And just to note, I might be speaking out of turn, but as you're developing and building your connections with your leadership teams, and indeed, Manawa Ora is available to actually demonstrate to senior executives, public service executives, the benefits of Mirimiri through a tailor-made clinic. And that might be the best way to introduce our kaupapa to you. Without the discussions about mahi and funding and things like that, but just for your leadership and your board to experience that, and that, I think that's an open invitation to senior executives from our public service agencies.
So I think it's just Alden and I did have conversations probably 2 years ago before we went out to our last RFP round, but we weren't, at that stage we weren't ready to bring our resources together. So part of the setup with Health New Zealand and the Māori Health Authority, in particular for the Māori Health Authority, there's 3 commissioning streams. One is direct commissioning, where we directly commission with providers. One is co-commissioning, so we Māori Health Authority commission with Health New Zealand and maybe Ministry of Health with the voting funding. So that's us bringing our heads together in terms, and it might be financial or might not be from our end, because we don't have a lot of money. Most of the money sits within Health New Zealand, so it might be how we might commission together using maybe a little bit of our money and a lot more of Health New Zealand, or all of Health New Zealand, whatever that's going to look like. And then the other is co-partnering, so that's us working with other agencies. So how we might work together with MSD, with ACC, and any other agencies in terms of the same kaupapa, but bringing it all onto just one umbrella.
Background in international development and the difficulty with recipients of funding is having a report against a whole bunch of projects. So the more we can consolidate, the better, and actually, working with outcomes-based reporting so that, the outcomes speak for themselves.
Yeah, and the language certainly changed the outcomes of the first one. So yeah, as I say, we're still learning, and we'll make mistakes along the way, but we're happy to be challenged. And, so that's our topic.
Anybody else?
Since we're in this,
Since he can stand up and walk freely.
Well, you're walking a lot straighter, brother.
Oaio, Kuala Pai Te Kuinga, he uri hau no ngā pui ngā te parau ngā te karamimi. I'm one of the managers of Māori Health, the ACC. Just wanted to just quickly introduce the real workers. I'll probably just leave the speaker, but the real workers here. We've got Angelique Asher here. She's helping to really focus on designing kaupapa Māori services, so she's a designer within ACC. We've got Ture Ormsby, that's our principal advisor, and specifically in the health part of ACC. So really just helping us stay safe from a Mātauranga Māori perspective. And then we've got Tere Moana, who's come down from fielding for this, but she's the one that's actively focused on Rongoā and making sure that we can operationalise things. Rongoā has been a really awesome story for ACC thus far. Acknowledging people like Benji for the mahi that he's put in, and many others to actually enable Rongoā, but operationalising Rongoā within the beast of ACC has been a real big challenge. And it's a challenge that a lot of us have been willing to put forward. I'm in my role because of my grandmother. She asked me as a young fella to learn Te Ao Pākehā, so that there will come a time in my life where I'll be able to help our people through navigating both worlds. So that's kind of the role that I see playing at the moment. But it's really good to see the impact that Rongoā is having. My mother lives in Gold Coast, Nuhaka. Sorry, I get mixed up with but she's a big advocate of Rongoā because she gave up on the health system because of the things that weren't working for her and getting her better. and also where she lives in Nuaka, the closest healthcare is an hour away, but her DHB is in Hawke's Bay, and so it's a big sacrifice for her to just get the natural support. But the good thing about Rongoā is some of these Rongoā practitioners are living in those rural communities. So we have a Rongoā practitioner in Nuaka, and so she's been able to access that, and so she's a huge advocate for this. And so I know that it works. I know that it's definitely benefiting our sort of ACC clients, because for those that sort of don't know ACC, our obligation is to get you better when you have an accident. And we look at all different ways of getting you better. There's this big putea sort of river of funding that goes to anyone that's going to help us achieve that goal. All we're just looking to do is redirect it into to our Māori spaces. What we've found after we've been able to enable Rongoā is we've now got 2 years of data to be able to really see whether Rongoā is something that is working for our people. One is it's improving the access. People are coming back and receiving services, especially in the health systems that they've given up on. But what we've found quite interesting, you probably see it at a day-to-day level, is we just assumed that Māori would take this on. And so when we first enabled Rongoā, it was almost 100% Māori, but then as time's gone on, more non-Māori are taking on board. I think we're sitting at about 68% of Māori accessing Rongoā, but there's becoming more and more non-Māori. And when we ask them, why are you accessing Rongoā? They said, this is the best thing, and we got to see firsthand the benefits. And we sort of forecast that it'd probably get to a 50-50 mark where it's available to all, but it's just a really good thing. The other thing is when we're looking at access, our wahine are not accessing ACC services. There's a few reasons. One main reason maybe in just generalising that they put the other people's needs in front of their own. But what we've found is for Rongoā, 70% of people that are accessing Rongoā are wahine. And so, we're really ticking off quite a few really good things. But probably one of the main things is we fund things so that you get better. And so what we've found is when people choose Rongoā as their pathway of care, there's about 86% of people that no longer receive any other health services because they're getting better as a result. And so these kind of things are now things that we have been able to demonstrate within the big ACC beast to say this is not a pilot. Rongoā is not a pilot. We've embedded Rongoā as part of our pathway of care or offerings to those that are injured. And now we're just looking to figure out ways to make it more efficient, to make it better. The current process is not as good as some other treatment provider systems, but that's because of the way we've been able to enable it. And it all comes down to the foundation of our legislation. Rongoā is not sort of recognised as a treatment provider, and so all those sort of smooth processes that you have when you get injured, you walk into a physio, you get your first bit of care, and then we'll figure out whether you'll get a claim or not. We don't have that privilege yet, and so we're really building some long-term approaches on improving the legislation framework, the policies, but also just the operationalisation side of it. You got Tere Moana here that has to do a lot of hard work because we don't have a professional body of Rongoā. We have to really do a lot of due diligence to make sure that it's not just, sort of Uncle Harry sort of saying, I'm a practitioner. But, we're really trying to make sure that all those that are registered with the ACC, have the upbringing, the whakapapa of Rongoā, and to be able to demonstrate that so we know that whoever is injured and receives that service, that it's going to be good. So there's a lot of hard work. We've only got about 70 registered Rongoā practitioners. They do dot from Kaitaia all the way down to the Invercargill. They do hit a lot of the rural communities, but we know that it's becoming more and more popular. And so one of the questions I was going to ask you is how do we grow Rongoā as a supply of services so that we can bring it more, you know, and make it more available? One of the biggest challenges we have in ACC is a big chunk of our organisation that are all dealing with frontline clients. Part of the process is for them to approve, you know, access to Rongoā. But a lot of them are not Māori, and a lot of them don't know what Rongoā is. And so we have come up with a lot of educational road shows and other ways to sort of educate, videos and you know, presentations in regards to letting them know what Rongoā is. But one of the things that we always recommend is, you know, the best way to get your testimony of Rongoā is to actually give them a go. You know, so you can be your own advocate. And what we've found is, you know, I got interviewed a few weeks ago from a reporter, and she asked me what I thought of Rongoā. And I said, what do you think of Rongoā? And she was like, oh man, it felt like they were working with me rather than at me. And I was like, well, there you go, there's your answer. Write your report about that. You know, like, I don't need to tell you if you've already got your own sort of support of it. But
when you mentioned 70 approved ACC providers, if you, just out of interest, if you happen to kind of have data down to the provider level, do you have a sense of the scale of the Manawa Ora operations in proportion to that?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. We've got quite a comprehensive sort of data approach. We look at down to the very registered practitioner, the services, the type of injuries that are linked to those services, how many sessions the person's had, how much were funded, and all the rest of it. Yeah.
So in terms of numbers, what kind of proportion of those hauora is Manawa Ora treating through ACC?
I don't know particularly. Yeah, I don't know them, but we'll be able to give you a bit of data in regards to that, just to give you a bit of an insight. Yeah, but we do have that information. We are just more tracking that there's no abuse, but also we're tracking how many sessions versus how much accidents, you know, like if you have this particular accident, how many sessions would it usually take to get you better and things like that, just for our own sanity. But at the end of the day, we're more sort of, we've got an obligation to get you better, and we just need to be able to find a health service that can support us to get you there. And Rongoā is definitely you know, a top performer for us. The only issue is that not everyone chooses Rongoā, and those that choose Rongoā are getting better. You know, yeah. But for us, funding's not really an issue, because if you have an injury, yeah, we have to fix you. So, however, whatever that costs and however much that takes, you know, it's either these fellas do it on their part, or we pay someone else that can do it on our behalf. And that's kind of our sort of legislative funding model. And so it's not really a, you know, fixed amount given. It's just more on a per injury basis. Yeah, so hence why I was saying there's a river of funding, and we just want to make sure it's directed in the right way. Yeah.
Kia ora. Well, look, great food for thought. Wonderful to have the guidance from you about kind of where we might take this. I know we're all hungry. We haven't even fed you yet, aroha mai, and we do have some kai. But I guess as we're having a kai, if we can just maybe we'd welcome any ideas about where we take this next and how we can help the sector as well. So I think I'll hand over to Matua Penitana now to close us with a here.
Kia ora no te whānau, tēnei te mihi whakakapi ki a tātou katoa. He mihi anō ki ngā kai kōrero kua tū i te rangi nei, te whakamārama ki a tātou e ngā kaupapa. Katahi anō te mihi ki a koutou, ngā kai mahi, e whakatina na tēnei kaupapa ki te taha o te kāwangatanga, aha ko ngā taumaha i raro i tērā mari. Ko te tūmanako, kua whai rangahau, kua whai te tahi mōriotanga ki tēnei kaupapa a ki tō tātou roku o Manawa Ora. No reira, tēnei te mātua. paurama, te ahu I roto, marama I roto, tēnā te pau, ko te pau ka eke, ko te pau kei a koutou. Nā te pau o tēnei hui, ka mā te tauira, ka mā te ariki. Kia puta, ki te whaiao, ki te ao marama. Eke panuku, eke tangaro, eke hine moana. Whano, whano, haramai te toki, haui e, hui e, tai e. Kia ora. Kia ora.